And now that we have something to shoot, we need a script to shoot it. So do I have a scripts folder? I do not. Let's make ourselves a folder in the project, call it scripts. And then with the scripts folder selected, I'm going to right click and create a new JavaScript. And we'll call this shooting. No need to put the .js for JavaScript, that'll do. And we'll double click it and get us into MonoDevelop. And I just realized we forgot to do one thing. You really should, whenever you make a prefab, like we had made here, get rid of the original. Otherwise, you're going to think later on in the game that it is a instance made from the prefab, but it's not. So again, it's one of the most counterintuitive things you can do is to delete something you've been just working on, but don't forget that we've got it now. We've got the prefab down there, and that's not the prefab, that's the original. So I'm going to delete it. Right, so anyway, back to working on our script and our shooting script. So the idea is that we are going to have, and you don't need the starter, that paragma at the top. This is the only one we're going to use, update on each new frame. Right, we're going to have a variable. So we go var, and let's call it prefab to attach. Fab to attach. But we can call it whatever we want. How about prefab to shoot, or how about crate to shoot? So crate prefab to shoot. It's our own variable name. What type is it? Is it a byte or a decimal or an integer or a floating point number, or what is it? Well, it's a transform. It is a game object which has transform attributes. If I just click back on that, you'll see that the crate indeed does have the ability to change its position, its rotation, and its scale. That's what a transform object is. So we've got our crate prefab to shoot, which is a transform. And so every frame, every time that this script is going to update, what are we going to do? We're going to check to see if the player is holding down the left mouse button. We do that by checking a certain input. Get button down. If you start to type it, it'll come up, arrow key down to get the right spelling, and the button down in particular that we're looking for is the one called Fire 1, and by default Fire 1 is the left mouse button. Now you'll notice that this is highlighted because it's closing the parentheses here, but we have that one to close as well for the if condition, so we're going to close it, and everything's happy in terms of the pairing up of the parentheses. So if, in other words, the left mouse button is down, what are we going to do? Open brace, enter, 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 close brace for this block of code, which is going to happen when the left mouse button is down. We're going to make another variable, var, let's just call it p for prefab. P is assigned making a new instance of our prefab. So taking it from the prefab folder and making an instance on the scene. So we go instantiate. Be careful of the spelling, it doesn't come up for auto-completion. Instantiate. It is a really quite different spelling with 3 T's in it. And instantiate takes 3 things, and that's a little bit too hard for you to probably see, but basically what it needs is a prefab to attach a transform position and a transform rotation. So it's this that we're going to add. That's our prefab, our transform. And then we go transform dot position, which is going to be the position of it. And then the rotation, we go quaternion, which is something different, but anyway, quaternion dot identity. That will give us the specific particular rotation of the actually of whatever this is on, and this is going to be on the camera. So the transform position and the rotation will be that of what this goes on, which will be the camera. So the crate's going to go where the camera is the long and the short of it. And then to make it move, we take this p variable, this prefab, not happy with prefab, let's just call it, how about attached crate. Yeah, let's call it that. Attached crate. So then the attached crate, that's a little bit more clear. Get rid of this completion. The attached crate, we're going to take its rigid body component, because our crate should have a rigid body component. Whoops. Okay, so red alert, red alert, red alert. This is something that I haven't done yet. I haven't given the crate a rigid body. Easy to do, but I hadn't done it so far, so make sure you don't miss this. Rigid body. Because when you're sensing a collision between two things, one of them has to have a rigid body. So, rigid body. And it's just as simple as that, just rigid body. Right, so this component is going to be the one that can add movement. So, attached crate, rigid body, dot, add force. And what are we going to add? We're going to take the forward with a small t. That came up as a capital, so be careful, make sure it's a small t. Whatever the transform forward position is, we're going to give it an actual quantity, a pretty big quantity of 2000. Right, and that will do it. So when the left mouse button is clicked, we're going to take this prefab and make an instance of it wherever the camera is and however the camera is rotated, and to that attached crate, its rigid body, we're going to add a force going forward from the camera, add a value of 2000. So we're going to save this. We should go build all, and it looks like it's happy. A little warning, but that's not too bad. And now we'll put this script onto the camera. And it's the camera of the first-person controller. This camera, right? This one right here, first-person controller. And there's our script. And it does have one variable that needs to be filled in, right? This transform, we didn't tell it what transform, which transform. So we do that here. And again, code can only attach stuff from the project, not from the scene. So it is the crate indeed, which we are going to instantiate. So we play it, and we'll move around and look what happens when we click. So that's the shooting script.